Well, hello ladies and gentlemen, it's your friend Noah again. In this video, God wants us to think for ourselves. So what would I mean by that? The biggest thing in I would say just America today is that people don't think for themselves. And they're very easily swayed to this belief, that belief, this thing, that thing. They believe what others tell them to believe. At the same time, they're following, people that are lost. And what would I mean by that? Well, let me start by a little thing that happened way back. This was late 70s, early 80s. I think it was actually early 80s. I think I was still in high school, in my junior or senior year. In the springtime, they're called smelt. They're a small fish, and they're very tasty, very tasty. But you go out and it's called dipping smelt. And in the springtime, when they run up small streams and brooks to lay their eggs and to spawn, what you do is you go there just after dark, and when they start to run up the stream, you scoop them out, and you're allowed a quart. It doesn't seem like much, but that's quite a few smelt when they're, smaller fish. So we went smelt fishing one night, and there was a whole group of us. My father and other adults and a few of us late teenagers. And so when we all got our limits and stuff and we're going to leave, of course it's dark. And to get to these brooks and streams, a lot of places where we go up in far northern Maine, you have a lot of alder bushes. And any of you that may know, these alder bushes, they grow like this, and they're thick little branches and trees, and they're very hard to maneuver through. So we go to leave. I grab my bucket and my net, and I turn around, and I'm looking on the ground. I'm looking for the tracks where we came in. That's the easiest way to find your way out, is retrace your steps and head back out. Well, I notice off to one side, I'm seeing like four of the guys I was with and we were with, and they're heading off through. And they're actually heading the wrong way. But I'm watching, and then all of a sudden I hear one guy speak up, "Well, stop following me, I'm lost too." And then I realized they had no idea where they were going. It's in the dark, and they're stumbling and crashing through and trying to find their way back up to the road. And it's like I hollered over, "Hey, the trail's over here." Huh? And they come over, and I pointed down and I said, "Here's our tracks where we came in." Huh. And we head out. So you see, be careful who you follow. That person may be lost. And so you may wonder what that has to do with thinking for yourself. Well, if you thought about things logically, then you can find the truth. When you're seeking your way out of a situation, do you want to trust yourself, or do you want to trust someone else? When you want to find the truth of God and the Bible, do you trust yourself to read the Bible and learn the truth for yourself, or would you rather just click on somebody's video or podcast or whatever they have out there today and follow whatever they believe? Because I can tell you right now, a lot of what these people believe and what they're believing in and who they're following and believing in, they're not getting the truth. They're getting the narrative that has been set over decades of deception and deceit. And everybody, right from our government to our schools to many churches, they understand one thing. People are followers. They're not leaders, or they're not researchers of their own facts. Today we have what I have called opinionated theory. Much of what is being forced onto our children in schools cannot be proven. They say it can be proven, but they leave out large sections of the facts. If you look at, let's say, what they say, this evolution. Let me take you down this little rabbit hole for a bit. They say 200 million years ago, there was a dinosaur that they called the Triceratops. Walked on this earth. It walked on this earth for 250,000 years. They don't know where it came from. It just appeared, and here it is. It's on Earth. It's a Triceratops. And it walked on this earth for 250,000 years. And when it disappeared from existence, guess what? It was still a Triceratops. It didn't evolve. It didn't change. For 250,000 years, it stayed a Triceratops until it disappeared. But now let's take it further to what I call their opinionated theory. They're claiming that a 20,000-pound Tyrannosaurus Rex became a chicken, a 5-pound chicken. You know how they came about this? If you look at their data, and you ask any professor pushing that, and the science. Okay, so let's look at the science. This is the scientific data, the facts of their scientific data. They are claiming they found DNA in the bone marrow of a Tyrannosaurus Rex that's been in the ground buried for 100 million years. And that DNA, once they took the DNA, then they started removing genomes out of the DNA. And they kept removing genomes until, look, it's similar to a chicken. So that means that the Tyrannosaurus Rex became a chicken. That's not evolution. That's de-evolution. As humans mate and over generations, and the DNAs mix and they create a new DNA, no genomes disappear. They just combine with others. And we evolve that way through mating. And that's where the changes and the subtle changes and hair color and skin tone and everything, this is where it all changes. It's the same thing with the Bible. It's the same thing they're pushing with the Bible today. People are using opinionated theory, but they're pushing it out there as fact. So many churches and Christians today, they believe in S.C. Scofield's reference Bible. But if they were to think for themselves and use common sense, they would see that there's big parts missing. S.C. Scofield has got people believing that Jesus is not seated in his throne at the right hand of God. And how did he come to that conclusion? By excluding verses. So when you come to that part, and he talks about it, and he uses Acts chapter 2, the day of Pentecost, and he comes down, and he uses verses 30, 31, 32. He skips 33, 34, 35, and goes to 36. But when you look at the 3 that he skipped, those verses say it clearly, that my Lord is with his Lord in his rightful place on his throne at the right hand of God. So when Jesus left the second time after the resurrection, and he walked with the disciples for 40 days, more or less giving them the instructions of this is what all time should be from here on out, he ascended once again into heaven. They watched him lift up and go, and he was seated on his throne at the right hand of God. That's exactly what the verses say. But in order to set a narrative, you must take pieces out to make your theory correct. So it's not factual, it's opinion. It's the same thing as I just told you with the dinosaur. They're not looking at the DNA and saying the DNA is that of a chicken that used to be from a T-Rex. No, they took pieces out and they rearranged it until they came to something that was similar to a chicken, but not a chicken. But this is what is happening in our society today because people are easily deceived because they don't think for themselves. And how can I say that people are so easily deceived? Well, let me tell you another story. Back in the mid to late 70s, they run a study and they realized packing tuna fish in a can with oil was unhealthy for you. The oil itself rendered the benefits of the fish unhealthy for you because of the oil. So, manufacturers changed and put it in water instead. So now this one grocery store owner, he's got all these cases of tuna fish packed in oil that he couldn't sell. Right on the shelf, you had that was packed in oil for 49 cents a can. Right beside it was the tuna fish packed in a can that was packed in water for 52 cents a can. And people wouldn't buy the oil because they were told and it's bad for you, so they were avoiding it. They were paying the extra 3 cents for the water. So instead of taking that hit, he had an idea. He took all the cases and all the tuna fish packed in oil that he had, remember, 49 cents a can on the shelf, and he put it in the center of an aisle, and put a sign on top. Sale, 2 for $1. It all disappeared in 2 days. So you see? The people thought they were getting a deal, when in fact they paid a penny more a can because they thought it was on sale. 2 for $1. So he actually got rid of all of his stock that he had, and he made a penny more a can. And this is why today, this is how people are today. This is what is happening in our society today, because people will not think for themselves. Why do you think in the Bible God had them write, and the inspired word of God and God's truth in the Bible state, let no man deceive you by any means. Study to show yourself approved. Why would God put this in there? Because he knows, and he knew in time people would do exactly what they're doing today. They are not thinking for themselves. They are not studying things for themselves. They are putting their faith in someone else. And yes, it's the same thing when it comes to these churches, and so many churches out there today. How many of these prosperity gospel preachers are out there pocketing and making millions and millions of dollars a year out of these big mega churches? And what do they keep telling the people? Whatever you give will be returned to you tenfold. So these people, oh, jeez, I just gave $100 to that church today, and they're waiting for God's printing press up there in heaven to and print out their $1,000 and hand it to them. Do you know the truth behind that is your generosity, your kindness? What you give and do for others shall come back to you tenfold. That came from Job. When no matter what Satan did to Job, no matter how bad he destroyed him, took everything from him, when it was all said and done, and Satan could not get Job to denounce God, and God won, everything came back to Job tenfold. So if he had 100 head of cattle, he now had a larger farm with 1,000 head of cattle. That's how it works. You show kindness to people, to strangers, that kindness comes back. And not just by one person, but by 10 people. That's how it works. You show kindness to one person. You help one person. And then you need help someday. And you would be surprised. Where do you think all these people to help you come from? Without you asking. It's because you are being repaid for your kindness to a fellow human being. And when it comes to all this division and hatred, you know, look at our government today. People are hating each other. Families are fully divided. 2020 took care of that. There were those of us that knew better, and those that were believing anything that come out of media and the so-called science, trust the science. And it divided the family. What's the Bible say? A house divided can never stand. If it's your personal house, your town, your community, or your country. And what has evil done within our government? People hate each other over a political party. Both sides claim that their political party is the best political party. Jesus doesn't want the left wing or the right wing. He wants the whole bird. But yet, people will literally hate each other over a political affiliation. We do have one political party that is worse than the other, because they're the ones that will destroy your life, will bankrupt you, will take everything from you, because they want you annihilated. They want you gone, because you are a direct threat to their authority and power over everything. And the other political party, well, they're cowards. They have no backbone. They just ride the wave. That's all they do. They're just as corrupt. They cheat just as much. They embezzle and do horrendous crimes, just like the other. They both do. But that doesn't keep them in power now, does it? What keeps them in power is lying and deceiving the people that no longer think for themselves. How do these big mega churches and even some of these little churches, how do they get away with making a living for themselves? Often the church is because people don't think for themselves. They put their faith in the people that stand up there and tell them just what they want to hear week after week after week after week. That church I told you about in my last video, there's a perfect example. They need to protect themselves. The deacon's family that gets $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 to go on a family vacation, all they had to do was call it a mission trip. The other family that just can't deal with society because society is so evil found it hard to make a living that way. Oh, well, they've got it now. Well, now he's the pastor. So now the church is paying him. And the pastor that retired, he doesn't have to go out and live like the rest of us and figure out how he's going to pay for his house or apartment or this or that because, he's still living in the church's house. So they are protecting themselves. And how does this keep functioning? Is because the people in the church don't think for themselves. They don't realize how they're being used for their money. There's no salvation there. There's no helping of the community. There's no help. And there's so many churches out there just like that. Let's go through the motions and thank you for your money. Geez, if I remember right, in Timothy, what was Timothy warned? What did Paul in the letters to Timothy warn of over and over again? Beware of those of filthy lucre. That is greed. Those are the ones that are there to make a living. Often you. It's no different than a politician. It's no different than a government. This is why God wants you to think for yourself. Then you will know the truth. You will see the truth. You will learn the truth. You will know the truth. And there is your salvation. Because with the truth you will have the faith. And by faith alone you will have salvation. You don't need anybody to do anything for you. You only have to give yourself to Christ and you will be saved. And you have to have that faith without proof. God already proved his existence, and God already proved his authority. That's all through the Old Testament. The prophecies that he gave to the people in that day and in that time all came true. There's only 5% left in prophecy that is yet to come true. And that's called the book of Revelation. And it will happen. But because people are so wrapped up in this information age of today, they have lost the truth. And people believe in opinionated theory because they don't want to be shamed. Just like your child that you send to school every day, that you think you're sending them there for an education, but it's an indoctrination. Because the second your child stands up and says, no, there's only two genders, what happens to that child? That child is shamed, belittled, and attacked by the teacher in front of the other students into silence. Because how dare you? We are here and we are telling you, this expert, that expert. Why are they an expert? Because, the teacher or professor says they are. So you see what's happened to the world? So, think for yourself, ladies and gentlemen. You'll be a lot better off. So until next time, ladies and gentlemen, God willing, this is No Way Out.